Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Tabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have a very serious show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to follow the Dreamerspro podcast, we have that pinned in the comments below. So let me get into this story here. Now, we recently produced a show around some of the things that were transpiring around the Brett Farve scandal, right? The welfare scandal that's taken place there in Mississippi. And in that show, I was basically saying towards the end that I was surprised at the lack of coverage that this story is getting, given the nature of the story, number one, and number two, and given the fact that it's involving a high profile person. And in this case, we're talking about a former NFL Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Farve, right? So given the fact that Farve has such a huge public persona, it's surprising that not that many media outlets are covering this. So what happened this morning? I was going through the internet and I came across a front office report. And this report had the following headline. It said, Mississippi Welfare Agency offers theories on Brett Favre's missing text messages. And I was like, this sounds a bit interesting. So I started to read through the article and I said to myself, there's some good information here that we can share with the audience here. But what I've also understood is that maybe there's some people out there that don't have all of the details, right? Because it's a long-standing case that's been running now for quite some time. And even me myself, there are a lot of parts of this case that I'm still trying to put together. So what I did this morning was I looked for various videos on YouTube that can give a quick summary of the essence of this particular case. And I came across a clip that was produced by ESPN a number of years ago. So what I want to do is play just a quick soundbite that essentially explains the premise of this case. And then we're going to come back and get into the article and get into the details here. So take a listen to what this clip had to say here about this scandal. Take a listen to that there.
In 2019, the state of Mississippi began investigating what would become the largest welfare scandal in state history, discovering nearly $80 million in federal welfare money intended for the poorest people in the nation's poorest state were allegedly misspent by the rich and powerful. Among those accused, hometown hero Brett Farve.
The first time that I knew that Brett Farve had some sort of intersection with our investigation was when an investigator walked into my office and he said, "I need you to watch this video."
State Auditor Shad White led the investigation.
It was a video of Mr. Farve promoting Prevacus's product, which was a nasal spray that was designed to prevent concussions. And my first question was, what does this have to do with welfare money? And the investigator's answer was exactly, what does it have to do with welfare money?
Prevacus was a pharmaceutical startup that Farve had a stake in. The Hall of Fame quarterback allegedly utilized his connections to get $2.1 million in government funds for the company and its affiliates. White and his team also discovered that Farve received $1.1 million for speeches he never made, and that $5 million went to build a volleyball arena at Farve's alma mater, the University of Southern Mississippi, where his daughter would play. In total, projects related to Farve received just over 10% of the misspent funds.
He can say, well, I didn't know where the money is coming from, but if he's trying to say that I didn't know the money was government money, then that is just not true. You can see some text messages that show that he knew that this is not just money that can be spent any sort of way.
Text messages show that beginning in 2017, Farve contacted multiple high-powered figures, including then-Governor Phil Bryant and Nancy New, both fellow USM grads. At the time, New was the head of a local nonprofit that handled federal funds, including welfare dollars from TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. Farve denies knowing the money he received came from welfare dollars, and has declined ESPN's interview requests.
You see $5 million going to a brick and mortar building that'll be eventually torn down. It shows that the state of Mississippi's priorities are in the wrong place.
So you heard what the ESPN report had to say. Now I want to get into this article and read some of what it has to say. It continues on. It said the legal battle over Brett Favre's text messages has led attorneys for the Mississippi Department of Human Services to ponder why the Hall of Famer can't find texts that could shed light on his alleged role in the welfare scandal. Favre was interviewed by the FBI in 2020, although he hasn't been charged criminally by federal or local authorities, as others have, over their alleged involvement in the largest public corruption scandal in Mississippi history that saw the misappropriation of at least $77 million of federal welfare funds. First, he claims he does not have his 2017 text messages, but somehow this does not mean that those messages have been destroyed, lost, discarded, or otherwise disposed of, MDHS lawyers wrote in a Thursday filing obtained by the Front Office Sports. This is an Orwellian doublespeak. If Favre deleted his text messages after the FBI interview or after the news were arrested in February 2020, then this is probative evidence of not only his intent to spoliate evidence, but also his conspiratorial intent. Favre should be compelled to fully respond to the interrogatory questions from MDHS. The interview with the FBI occurred close to the time the two leaders of a nonprofit at the center of the scandal, Nancy and Zach New, were first charged. The news nonprofit Mississippi Community Education Center was used to allegedly funnel $8 million of TANF connected to Favre, according to the previous filings in the lawsuit. Like the news, Favre is amongst the more than 40 defendants in the lawsuit seeking to recoup the misspent temporary assistance for needy family funds. Federal money aimed to help the poorest families in the U.S. MDHS has sought the text messages from Favre's phone as far as back as 2017, in large part to authenticate the many texts that were obtained via subpoena from other defendants in the case. One potential explanation MDHS lawyers offered: Favre turned his phone over to the FBI. If Favre still had text messages from 2018 and 2022, then he likely still had text messages from 2017 in 2020, MDHS attorney wrote. FOS reported Favre has remained on the radar of federal investigators since that 2020 interview. Representatives for the Department of Justice have declined to comment. Typically, federal investigators, after a judge approves a subpoena, would image a cell phone and return the phone to the person. Federal investigators likely would seek cloud storage where the messages are archived. Favre's lawyers also balked at MDHS requests for tax returns from 2017 through 2020. Favre objects to this request to the extent it seeks documents that are irrelevant to the claims or defenses in this action and not reasonably calculated to lead to discovery of admissible evidence, Favre's attorney wrote in a recent filing. But MDHS again stated that the tax returns are needed to determine how much Favre put toward a volleyball center built in the University of Southern Mississippi. The Southern Miss Athletic Foundation received at least $5 million in TANF funding for the project, allegedly with the assistance of Favre. Favre's tax returns provide a check on whether the foundation general ledger is correct, MDHS lawyers wrote. That ledger shows that the foundation, for unknown reasons, paid Favre $250,000 on November 30th, 2017. Favre's tax return would show whether this was income he received, and the general ledger shows no donations from Favre, but the foundation acknowledged donations from Favre of $150,000 for the volleyball facility in 2017 and $100,000 for the indoor and volleyball facilities in 2018. So you heard what the report had to say there. This is pretty tricky information here, especially with the text messages. It was also alleged at a certain point that where Favre was saying something to the effect of, will anyone be able to find out anything about this, right? There seems to be a lot of smoking guns. Obviously, no one is pointing any definitive fingers to say, okay, this is what this person did wrong, that's what that person did wrong. Nevertheless, this thing is not going away. This investigation has been ongoing for a number of years now. The last case we covered, when they asked, when in the report where they were trying to get Favre's tax returns, according to the report, he was a bit reluctant to release that information. As you guys know, Tax returns can yield a lot of pertinent information about how you made your money, sources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't want to release that information, it seems a little bit fishy. Some would then begin to wonder, okay, why don't you want to release that information? Obviously, people have privacy reasons. Maybe they don't want people going through their tax returns. I don't know, right? Maybe they feel like that's just information for themselves, and maybe with their accountants and whenever they're filing, maybe that's it. I don't know why. Various people have various reasons for why they want to withhold their taxes. But in this particular instant, I don't see this case going away. What I would like is for it to have more coverage. Now, this isn't one of those salacious stories where we're talking about maybe like a Dwight Howard, which is quite interesting. It really shows you how low sports media has fallen, because this is exactly what Dan Le Batard was talking about. This is exactly what Marcellus Wiley was talking about, where it's just more about the entertainment. The Dwight Howard story is a lot more entertaining to some people, whereas this is a very, very serious matter. Dwight Howard is a serious matter as well, because there may be some legal ramifications. But if we're talking about the crux of it, the essence of it, the gist of it, it's nowhere near as serious as this, because you're talking about, misappropriating over $77 million, something that affected multiple people. Whereas in the case of Dwight Howard, it may have affected one or two, maybe three parties. I don't know. So I'm a bit surprised that it's not getting as much coverage, because again, the Dwight Howard thing seemed to be, a lot of people were talking it up all over the place to hear about that particular story. But I hope as time goes on, other outlets will begin to cover this case, because quite frankly, it's a pretty big story. So these are my thoughts. The question I want to know, the question I have for you guys is this: number one, do you think he's going to be able to produce those text messages? And number two, do you think that Farve is going to be able to come out of this thing unscathed, and there's going to be no issues whatsoever? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we catch you guys on the next show.